Okay, I will be starting today. Hello, everyone. My name is Isaac Thomas, and we are the University of Utah Solar District Cup team. Our assigned district was, of course, California State University Northridge, and here is our district use case solar plus storage proposal. Next slide, please. Jumping into the team introduction, let's start with the student members. That would be Cecilia Costello, Isaac Thomas, Ethan Larson, Francisco Borrera, and Jose Teo. As for our advising members, that would include Dr. Mostafa Ardakani, who served as our capstone advisor through the University of Utah, as well as our Solar District Cup mentor, Satoko Wakasa, through Nexam. Next slide, please. Our main goals for this project were to reduce campus energy consumption and increase clean energy usage on campus. Throughout our design process, however, we worked hard to create a financially viable option for CSUN. Additionally, we wanted to introduce emergency power, energy shaving, and energy shifting through the implementation of battery storage. Lastly, our design moved to improve EV charging infrastructure on campus through the introduction of a new large EV charging system. Let's move into the conceptual design. Next slide, please. Our conceptual design installations are summarized within the conceptual design document, and shown in detail are the 17 pages of electrical site plans, diagrams, and drawings therein. This includes our 5 photovoltaic installations, 3 battery energy storage system installations, and 1 EV charger system installation. Next slide.
All right, thanks, Isaac. So getting into our equipment selection. So for our solar panel, we chose the Silfab SIL 400 HC+, mostly because it's American made, and that allows us to take advantage of the domestic content bonus. For inverters, we go with 2 manufacturers, Chint Power Systems and Fronius. We were looking for large central inverters that also had an output voltage of 480 volts, so we could connect directly to the building's distribution panels. For our BESS units, we went with Evesco because they have a modular design, so that allowed us to get really close to our optimized battery sizing from our REOP simulations. And in order to comply with NEC 690.12, which is the rapid shutdown requirement, we're going to install a Tigo TS4AF on the back of every solar panel module. So this is a power electronic device that will drop the voltage of each panel to 0.6 volts in the event of an emergency. Next slide, please. Okay, so onto our photovoltaic systems. So we have 2 types of installations, a carport and a fixed tilt rooftop. So we have 4 fixed tilt rooftop installations whose power output totals about 2.54 megawatts. Our 1 carport on parking structure B3 totals about 1.46 megawatts in power. Our total energy consumption from all of our PV installations is going to offset about 22.5% of CSUN's current annual consumption. If you take a look at the graph on the bottom, the blue shows these 5 buildings and what they are currently consuming in terms of energy in gigawatt hour per year. And the orange shows what these buildings' PV installations are producing. You can see at parking structure B3, we really produce a lot of energy annually, but that structure, as well as Jacaranda Hall, we install at a feeder voltage, 4.16 kV, through a new transformer. And so the energy produced there will actually be utilized by a lot of buildings on that same substation feeder line. Next slide, please.
Our battery energy storage systems came to 3 BESS installations. These include Ovia Hall, Redwood Hall, and the University Student Union, all of which are additions to the photovoltaic designs for each site. Our main constraint for these installations was to have an emergency resilience load of 2 hours at 50% peak power. These constraints were met using REOPT, which optimized the dispatch timing for our batteries and financially optimized our battery sizing. Evesco modular units were then used to approximate the REOP simulations, bringing the design close to the best financial options for our system in kilowatt and system capacity in kilowatt hours. Uniquely, the Evesco units also allow for both DC photovoltaic and AC grid interconnection. Next slide, please. Our 1 EV charging system is an enhancement of parking structure B3's photovoltaic design, meaning that it requires minimal electrical upgrades. One of the challenges we faced was, given the Solar District Cup doesn't necessarily include EV chargers, we did have to create a custom financial model for the system. The final design then implements 40 level 2 EV chargers. At 2 ports per charger, this gives us an 80 vehicle capacity and 800 kilowatts of total power output. Next slide, please. With the 5 photovoltaic installations at the given generation, 3 BESS installations of resilience capacity, and 1 EV charging system with an 80 vehicle capacity, at 22.5% of energy offset, we boast a strong conceptual design. Let's move into the distribution impact. Next slide.
Okay, thanks, Isaac. So we created OpenDSS simulations so we could understand the actual impact on CSUN's distribution network from our designs. So in order to do that, we used the starter code provided from the district. And then we added on different objects such as load shapes, transformers, PV systems, and storage elements. So the PV system represents our PV installations. It requires a lot of different inputs, one of those inputs being irradiance data. So we calculated irradiance for CSUN at the beginning of the year and utilized that analysis in our definition for our PV system installations. We also added storage elements, which represent our BESS installations. So one of the pieces of information you need when defining that element is a dispatch load shape. So we utilized the exported information from our REAPT simulations for our batteries when defining our storage elements in OpenDSS. We also did a PV hosting analysis to understand if we were violating thermal or voltage constraints. So you can see, for instance, we weren't able to connect our PV installation at Jacaranda Hall directly to that building due to the upstream PV installation at Redwood Hall. So for both Jacaranda Hall and parking structure B3, we connect at different nodes, 97 and 107 respectively, and we connect to those nodes at the feeder voltage of 4.16 kV through the installation of 2 new transformers. The figure on the left shows the nodes we're connecting at that are highlighted in yellow. Next slide, please. So these are some of the results from our OpenDSS simulations. The image on the left shows what the current, the CSUN distribution network voltage profile was before we installed any PV or battery. You can see it's nicely centered around 1 PU, as would be expected. After we've installed all of our PV and BESS installations, the voltage profile of the entire system is lifted, which is also as expected, but you can see we're still within plus or minus 5% of 1 PU as required. Next slide, please. So there's something that CSUN wants to do to kind of affect these changes to their distribution. Oh, can you go back one slide, actually? Thanks. So if we wanted to change that system, we actually have some control over that by adjusting the reactive power output from the inverters that we use. So we use Chint power inverters for most of our installations. They're smart inverters that allow us to change the reactive power output. So if we set those inverters to consume a certain amount of power output, certain amount of reactive power output, then we're able to bring the voltage profile of the system down. And conversely, if we want to increase the voltage profile of the system, we can set those inverters to source a certain amount of reactive power. And I'm going to pass it over to Jose, who's going to kick off our financial analysis. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Cecilia. For the financial analysis, we used Berkeley's Tracking the Sun report as our benchmark for PV pricing, and we came to an average PV pricing for the 5 installations of $2.40 per watt, and the average PV plus battery of $2.84 per watt. We also used NREL's report as our benchmark for our battery pricing, which we came up to the capacity cost of $179 per kilowatt hours and the power cost of $650 per kilowatt. We qualify and use the federal ITC of 30%, as well as the domestic bonus of 10%, which we qualify by using the CILFAB solar panels, which are US manufactured. For the levelized cost of energy, our PV-only system is 9.97 cents per kilowatt hour, and our PV plus battery is 15.04 cents per kilowatt hour. Next slide, please. We are providing the university with a 20-year lease option and a direct purchase cash option for PV-only and PV plus battery, along with a financial analysis for the EV charging. For the WACC, that represents our nominal discount rate, which we have set to 7.42. And for the leasing, we are providing them with a monthly lease price, host net present value, a targeted internal rate of return of 7.5% for PV-only systems. And for the direct purchase options, we have the project price, the tax incentives at 40%, the payback period for every system, along with the university's net present values for every system as well. Parking structure B3 has a negative net present value, but that is offset by the positive net present values of the other systems. And then adding a battery system financially reduces the net present value for the overall system, but it does provide the university with the 50% resilience during outages for the 3 specific chosen buildings. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Jose. So for the financial overview comparison for the PV and PV plus storage, starting with the lease display on the table, shows the monthly payment for both setups, with PV plus storage being slightly higher in comparison to PV only over a 20-year term. For the PV system under lease, there is a positive net present value for the host, Adding a storage does lead to a negative host NPV. However, integrating all three batteries will align with the district's goal of moving towards being off-grid. The financial does improve significantly with a direct purchase. While the initial prices are high, both PV and PV plus storage benefits from a 40% incentive, leading to a positive NPV and sustains over 30 years for a payback period that stands for 13 years for PVs and extends for 15 years for PV plus battery. Next slide, please. We're taking into consideration both PV and PV plus storage for a direct purchase and a lease option. We do recommend a direct purchase if funds are available. However, the lease is still a viable option. For a PV plus storage, we do strongly recommend a direct purchase. And if we want to have a positive entry for both lease and direct purchase, removing the student union battery storage will meet those requirements. Lastly, by implementing EV chargers and parking structure P3, the district can show a commitment for the district going all green as the EV charger shows a positive NPV for direct purchase, while still choosing the lease option or direct option with no negative impact on the systems project. Next slide, please. And I will pass it off to my colleague, Ethan.
Thanks, Francisco. So I'm going to be discussing the development plan of our proposal. So firstly, the zoning of our project. All 5 of the structures that we are intending to build on are classified as public facilities in terms of zoning. And the authority having jurisdiction of California State University is California State University. It has its own AHJ, which is the California State University Building Authority. And so all permitting and works projects have to go through CSU for approval. But in terms of fire regulation, the state fire marshal acts as a co-AHJ for enforcing fire codes. And for all interactions and interconnections with the electrical grid, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power acts as a co-AHJ with CSU. And all interactions with the infrastructure surrounding CSUN is handled by the City of Los Angeles. Next slide, please. This is about our permitting process, and the permitting process follows the standard state permitting process as detailed in California Building Code Article 105. The requirements, some of the requirements for which are shown on screen here, which have to do with site preparation. And these are also the relevant fire and energy codes that we had to follow in the course of our design. Most notably, as Cecilia mentioned, we have the NEC 690, which details the rapid shutdown requirements, and the California Fire Code Article 1205, which details the necessary pathways and spacing that must be on roofs in order to comply with fire codes. Next slide, please. This is our timeline consideration slide. You can see here in this diagram, our timeline can be broken down into 4 general sections. The first is the site review time, which has to be done before any permitting can be done to make sure that the site is suitable. And then our permitting plan review time, which includes both the permitting process with the state, the CSU AHJ, and the plan review time, which is the time of hiring engineers to verify our designs and make sure that the site is viable for them. Then we have budgeted 8 months for our construction timeline and our materials acquisition, as detailed in the Solar District Cup manual. And then because of our novel carport structures, we have budgeted an extra 50% on top of that, an additional 4 months. Next slide, please.
Great, and we do have the 2-minute warning, just as a FYI.
Thank you. This is our energy equity analysis consideration. The first most notable point is that there is a notable environmental benefit. There would be a reduction of 4,300 pounds of CO2 annually with our design, and it would help reduce the heat island effect. But there would also be a notable community equity consideration, which is that the district surrounding CSU is 69% people of color, according to the EPA. And so in order to account for that, we have factored into our considerations minority and women-owned local businesses that could help with construction hiring and education programs like Shenzhen Growatt New Energy Co. and MS Navarro Engineering. MS Navarro Engineering is both minority owned and women owned. Next slide, please. And I'll hand it off to Isaac to see us out.
Okay. So in conclusion, our design hosts 5 PV installations at 4 megawatts DC and 6.92 gigawatt hours annual capacity, offsetting campus energy usage by 22.5%. The 3 best installations introduce resilience to 3 flagship buildings, while the EV charger system promotes commitment to green energy on campus. With a competitive development timeline and a viable lease and direct purchase option, our design is optimal for CSUN. Thank you.